Hey guys, New York Bassin, and this is going to be a in-depth video on just reels in general, mostly casting, but I'll do a little bit on spinning reels, and it's going to be on everything from gear ratios to reels themselves, like what you want to look for in a reel, all that. I'm going to try and keep it as non-opinionated as possible, but I'll throw my opinion in here and there. But I'll start off quick with spin reels here. This is a Quantum Accurist. 20 is and 20 is the size, and you're gonna want to match the size up with your rod and what you're gonna be using it for. And this 20 is just the perfect, more of like a good all-around size. They make a 10, I think, also, so that's a smaller reel. And I don't know if they make like a 30 or something like that. I really don't know a whole lot about this reel. I haven't used it before. But it has 10 ball bearings, which is good. For the most part, the more ball bearings, the better. But on cheaper reels, this is a $80 or $100 spin reel. So, I mean, it's pretty good. You know, it's not like a cheap reel. But if it's a cheap reel with high ball bearings, that generally means that the ball bearings aren't that good because ball bearings aren't cheap. And a $50 reel with like 9-10 bearings, the bearings aren't going to be worth a whole lot, and they might not last. Could be wrong. There's always exceptions to all that, but like right here is a Shimano Sedona spin reel. It's a $60 spin reel, size 2500. Same thing, perfect just for all around, like kind of finesse. I can really do anything with it. Spools, like good size and everything, but it has 5 bearings. So it's only a $60 reel, which is good. Shimano they have lower ball bearings, but as far as I know, they're good ball. Like they're not like cheap, just kind of junk ball bearings. So that's pretty much it with spin reel. Most spin reel frames, like all this right here, this is all the frame, all through here. And that's all graphite. I'm pretty sure this is all graphite. Same thing with this one. And then the spool, this right here is the spool, all this right here, and that's aluminum, same thing on that reel. Up here's the drag, as you guys should know, and set your drag according to what lures you're using. That's pretty much in the line you're using too, so just kind of experiment with that. But that's pretty much it for spin reels. Casting reels, I'm not going to go into reels themselves yet. I'm just going to go into gear ratios. But I'll start from the lowest and go to the highest. There's pretty much 3 main gear ratios. There's 6 actually. But 3 main that you're going to want is a 5-3 to 1, 5 whatever to 1, mostly just for cranking. But these are just the general rules for gear ratios. It's whatever you're comfortable with. That's the whole thing with reels, rods, everything is what you're comfortable with. So you're going to want like a 5 to 1, 5 to 3 to whatever to 1. Gear ratio for like cranking or something that you're going to want to keep in the strike zone for a long time and not move too fast. You're definitely going to want a 6-4 to 1 gear ratio, probably the most versatile gear ratio there is, because it takes gear ratio is how much line per crank, like how fast the spool will turn. So the general rule is, for every crank, the spool will spin, say it's 6-4 to 1. It'll spin 6.4 times per crank. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Like the first number is how many times it turns, point whatever. I'm pretty sure that's just like a fraction of a turn. I could be wrong, but I just know that the beginning number is how many times the spool will turn. And that pretty much depends on what lure you're using. 6-4 to 1 you can throw almost anything on. You can crank with it. I wouldn't suggest deep cranking because a lot of 6-4 to 1s don't have deep spool. A deep spool, like a spool, is how much line obviously the reel will hold. But things you can throw with 6-4 to 1, you can throw top water, you can throw jigs, you can throw crankbaits, spinnerbaits, chatterbaits. The list goes on and on. You can pretty much throw anything with 6-4 to 1. You just got to find a reel that suits you the best and you are comfortable with. That's pretty much everything that is comfort. And you're going to want a high gear ratio, such as a 7-1 to 1. They make 8-0 to 1. Those are the high-end reels, 200 plus for the most part, as far as I know. And they also make a 9-0-1. It's the Abu Garcia Revo Rocket, which takes like 37 inches of line per crank per turn. So that's for like buzz baits and flipping and stuff. So, but you're gonna want like a 7:1-to-1 gear ratio for things such as jigs, top water. I wouldn't suggest cranking with it with a 7:1-to-1. You can spinner baits, chatter baits, whatever you're comfortable with. Most good fishermen will just control the reel speed depending on what they're using, which is perfectly fine. You can get all 6/4-to-1s if you want to, but if you're like me and most other fishermen, you're probably going to want to get gear ratios depending on what you're using. But you're going to have to experiment and see what you're comfortable with. But now I'm going to go more in depth into the reels. This right here is a Bass Pro Shops Pro Qualifier, $100 reel, 80 on sale. The frame, so the frame, guys, is all of this right here. It's kind of hard to kind of show upside down. But all this right here, this is all the frame. So you can see this right here, how there's like that line. Well, this in part here, like this inside part right here, that's the frame. These are the side plates. As you guys should know, here's a spool. I'm not gonna take apart my bait caster and show you guys all the parts. But pretty much two main things that reels are made out of is graphite and aluminum. You're going to want to probably look for a aluminum frame. Aluminum is more has more weight than graphite. It's heavier. It's also a lot more durable. Graphite can flex under pressure. You don't want that. All your gears and all that ball bearings and stuff, it's all in alignment, like precisionally. And the graphite frame with the flex, it might take them out of place. I'm not saying graphite reels are bad. Absolutely not. It's just, I've come to find out, and many other anglers have found out, that aluminum is a lot more durable. It's also heavier, so there's pros and cons to everything. And this reel also has aluminum side plates. Most reels have graphite side plates, such as this Revo S by Abu Garcia. Graphite side plates, aluminum frame. Most reels are going to be like that, loose speed spool. Even this Bass Pro Shops Johnny Morse Carbon, the thing weighs 5.9 ounces, but it has an aluminum frame, which I really like. But in the graphite side plates, pretty much just for weight. And another thing, again, is ball bearings in reels, which this right here, Pro Qualifier, is 7 bearings, which, well, it's 6 plus 1. It has 6 stainless steel ball bearings for, like, smoothness, castability, all that, just pretty much smoothness. But the plus 1 means it has an anti-reverse bearing, which kind of like stops it from reeling backwards. It won't reel backwards. Spool stops. There's a bearing in there that stops that. Older reels don't have that, and over time they'll start to reel backwards, and the reel's pretty much junk. And now I'm going to go into cheap reels versus expensive reels. I'll just go to cheap and then kind of work my way up with what I have here. And this right here is a Pinnacle Vision slider. I don't know, it's like a 5-6-year-old reel. I got it from Brad. I don't know a whole lot about it. Graphite frame, graphite side plates. It was like $50, 6 bearings. Thinking cast, and obviously it's durable. It's in 7:1-to-1 gear ratio, 7:0-to-1 gear ratio. So, like, that's not terrible. And cheap reels generally have a lower max drag, and max drag is how heavy or basically how heavy you can set the drag for. Well, every reel's different, but it's how like heavy the drag is and how many pounds of pressure it'll take to pull out the drag. So right here is a Bass Pro Shops Pro Qualifier. I already said it's got all aluminum. 7 bearings. It only has 10 pounds max drag, which is not very good. Max drag isn't like a massive deal. Like flipping or pitching, you're going to want a heavy drag. Cranking, you don't need a heavy drag because you're using a treble hook bait. Most treble hook baits, you don't want a heavy drag set, but I'm not going to get into that. But this Pro Qualifier is a really good reel, durable, casts. It's all good all around reel. Here's the Abu Garcia Revo S, $130 reel. It's kind of moving up a little bit from the Pro Qualifier. It's lighter weight. It's got the graphite side plates, aluminum frame. I don't really know a whole lot about it. I only used it for a little while. Haven't really formed a good opinion yet. I had problems with it, but took it apart, like oiled everything up. It was a little over greased, like oddly enough, from the factory. So I kind of had to mess with the grease and stuff, but that's not a big deal. And now the thing seems to work fine and casts far. So here's another $130 reel, the Johnny Morris Carbon Light. Like I said, aluminum frame, graphite side plates. Braking is another thing. Most, if not all, reels will have one type of braking, either centrifugal. And centrifugal is, I'm not going to take this reel apart, it'll take too long. You have to take off the side plate here, and in here there's like this, it's like a braking system. You have to adjust the springs and stuff, and Brad or I may make a video on that if you guys want us to. But they'll either have that or they'll have a magnetic braking system. This right here is dual braking, both. So you adjust the brakes to what lures you're using and how experienced you are with a bait caster. And it also has a spool tension, how fast the spool will spin. It's just a knob, you loosen it, you tighten it, and you see what works best for you. And then now on to a expensive reel. It's a $300 reel, but I didn't pay that. I got it on sale for like $150. It's a Quantum Tour KVD Cranking Classic in 5.3-1. It's got the deep spool, but this thing has aluminum side plates, aluminum frame, deep spool, 11 bearings are ceramic. Bearings, I'm not going to go into bearings, but there's stainless, there's ceramic, and I know there's one other type. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I don't even know. I haven't used this reel yet. I'm extremely pumped. Of course, I got it at the beginning of winter, so I have to wait all winter now to use it. But pretty much durability, like what it's made out of, bearings, braking. It kind of has braking that adjusts itself. But to recap on the gear ratios, 5.3-1, mostly like cranking or something you want to keep in the strike zone. Maybe spinnerbait or a football jig, you'll use 5.3-1, deep spool, deep water, unless you're going to make far casts, especially with cranking. 6.4-1, good all around, spinnerbaits, crankbaits, chatterbaits, top water, whatever you want to do with it is fine. Just doesn't usually have a deep spool. Like I know Lew's makes deep spool reels in almost any gear ratio, but you just gotta look and do your research. And 7.1-1 for stuff such as jigs and top water, maybe spinnerbaits, chatterbaits. But that pretty much is a wide spectrum for gear ratios that I think you can use. And spin reels, I already went over them, and nothing really special about spin reels. You can get them in any price range, and it's basically what's comfortable, guys, and what works for you. So I hope this video helped. Do you have any more questions, comments, want me to make other videos on this stuff, whatever, just leave in the comments, and like, rate, comment, subscribe, and thanks, guys.